Favourites and non-favourites. A wonderful time to reflect on all the reading I've done throughout the course of a year. Oh, but you know what? You can't have one without the other. So while I do many favourites that I reflect on, there is one video that I do where I talk about my non-favourites. And today we are talking about the worst books that I have read. Welcome back to Mr. Francy Reads. Let's go! Yes, hello, and welcome back to Mr. Francy Reads. Today we are talking the topic worst books. Now, in the spirit of full disclosure and transparency, which I always have on this channel, I have decided that I'm not going to make this an exclusive 2024 edition of Worst Books. I have rated 2 books 2 stars this year. None of them got 1 star. And the 2 books that I rated 2 stars, I really don't feel like I have a lot that I want to say about them. And I've read significantly worse books throughout the nearly 6 years that I have been hosting this channel, Mr. Francy. So what we're going to be doing today is we're going to count down with books throughout the 6 years that I've read that I deem to be the worst of the worst. Of course, I cannot proceed any further without stating a little disclaimer here, which is that naturally my opinions are my own, and one of the most amazing things about being readers is that we're not a monolith. Something that you might like, I might not like. Something that I might like, you might not like. Something that I think makes a book bad or makes it a worst book, you might think makes it an amazing book, and that's absolutely fine. Please feel free to disagree with my opinions in the comments below, but of course, no bullying or hatred towards anyone. Let's keep the focus on the actual argument itself rather than the person. That in mind, let's jump right in. Here are the worst books I've ever read. Every Value Break by Peter Swanson. This is categorized as an adult thriller, and I am here to give you the biggest rebuttal. I don't know about you, but when I sit down to read a thriller, the one thing that I expect is going to occur is that the book is going to what? Say it with me. Thrill me. Otherwise, why is it called a thriller? What is the point of a thriller being called a thriller if you're not going to be sitting on the edge of your seat? We have other genres that are perfectly categorized for what a book is if it's deemed a thriller but is not a thriller, and that is a mystery. You could just call it a straightforward mystery if there's too much going on to make it a cozy mystery, for example. So I don't get it. But anyway, this particular book, Every Value Break by Peter Swanson, is absolutely not a thriller. If you want to read a thriller that's not a thriller because you don't like thrillers, but then you can say you have read one, I highly recommend picking up this book because it's absolutely not thrilling. There is one scene, I'm not spoiling anything here for you. There is one scene where a character is tied up by rope to a chair. This occurs right at the end of a specific chapter. At the beginning of the following chapter, the person who tied the person up to the chair laughs and says, "You really think that we were going to harm you? Of course we're not. Untie them, let them go." Seriously, it lasted a paragraph and it was the only edge of your seat action that occurred for the entirety of the book. Yeah, very suddenly, Peter Swanson became an auto not buy for me. I'd seen some other reviews that booktubers had done on other books that Peter Swanson had written, and very quickly came to realize that, yeah, his books, they're not thrillers. They're just categorized as thrillers, and therefore he's just not the author for me. And I understand that it's probably not Peter Swanson's fault. And if his books were just categorized as mysteries and not as thrillers, of course I would probably be more open to reading his works. But unfortunately, they're not. They're categorized as thrillers, and they're simply not thrillers. Alrighty. Bet you didn't expect this one, but the next one I'm going to show you is Mums and Mayhem by Amanda Flower. I love Amanda Flower. And for those of you who are new to the channel, hello and welcome. Those who have returned, give me a moment to just make this point to those that are new. I love Amanda Flower. Not only is she my favorite female cozy author of all time, but she's my favorite female author of all time. In saying that, there are definitely books of Amanda Flower's that I don't like. This is one of them. Sometimes books can be miscategorized, as we mentioned earlier. And then sometimes books can have a series, can be mistitled. And I definitely feel that this is the case with this particular book. And, well, series, to be honest. The series is called the Magic Garden Mystery Series. Okay, the last two words make sense. There are mysteries in every book. It is a series, absolutely. Garden, yes, there is a garden. Magic Garden, yeah, okay. Without giving away spoilers, all I'll say is this. There is something magical about the garden that our protagonist, whose name eludes me, I'm sorry, I read it a while ago and I read a ton of books, so forgive me, but the protagonist ends up moving to, I think it's Scotland or something, and she inherits a property, and on that property there is like a secret garden that's been locked up, and kind of like the classic book, The Secret Garden, and when our protagonist goes into the garden, they are advised of the fact that it has magical properties. Yes, this is true. No, I won't spoil what it is in case you haven't read it yet, but let me tell you. I finished book 1 in the series thinking, okay, there was a little bit of magic, I appreciate that, but we need more. Went into book 2, got next to nothing on the magic, and went, okay, there's only one book left in the series. Clearly it's going to not be dominated by the mystery. It's going to be dominated by the magic in the garden, because we still don't know anywhere near enough about this magic garden. And let me tell you this much as a spoiler, no we don't find out any more about it. Now, again, I'm not going to reveal what the magic aspect of the garden is, because that in and of itself would be a spoiler. If you do want to know what it is and you don't intend to read the series, or you don't mind being spoiled, feel free to message me over on the Discord. I'm more than happy to tell you what it is. And once I do, you will realize, or if you've read it, I'm sure you've realized yourself that it is a magic garden, there's a magic aspect, but on a magic scale, it's like a 0.5, it's not even a 1, and that magic is not well fleshed out. I just don't think that it should have been called the Magic Garden Mystery Series, because it sets you up for many more expectations that the reader shouldn't have. Next up we have The Last Smile in Sunder City. This is written by Luke Arnold. Yeah, okay. Where do I begin? We're starting to get to that point of, even though this is another 2-star from me, we're starting to get to the emotional point of where the heck do I begin? So the premise of this book intrigued me. I did not seek out this book. What happened was I was purchasing my month's worth of reads from a specific bookstore in 2020 during the COVID lockdowns. And sometimes when they would deliver these books to me, there would be an included free book as a way of saying thanks. And this was one of them. I read the premise, and again, it intrigued me. The basic setup, from what I remember, was that we followed this investigator of magical mysteries in a world where magic has now dried up. And I thought, ooh, interesting. It'll be very interesting to see all of these characters that have magical abilities and see how they are and what they're doing without this magic. Here's the problem. I went in fully, wholly, and completely expecting the magic to be dried up. What I did not expect is for the prose to be absolutely dry and so dense. Oh my goodness. It wasn't written in a way that was hard to read. So don't get me wrong, it's very easy to read the words on the page. You're not having to mentally translate and stuff like that, like you may have to do with some classic books. It's written in a very easy to read writing style, but the feeling is not there. And I don't know if it was that this is what Luke Arnold wanted for his character, but I also don't understand how a book can appeal to any reader if the prose comes across as extremely dry and unfeeling. The character, by all means, you can have a character that is non-feeling, absolutely, that can definitely happen, but when your prose comes across as extremely dry, it becomes really hard to get through. So yeah, really one of the worst books I've ever read. I don't know how I got through it. I think I was telling myself it will get better, it will get better, it has to, right? And it never did. But yeah, I just would highly recommend staying away from this one unless you want a really, really dry read. Here's a thought. If you can't sleep one night, read this book because it'll put you to sleep. That's horrible. But anyway, it's my opinion and I'm allowed to have it. Next up is a book that is so adequately titled, which is, you would think is so wrong for a worst book, but it is. It's one thing I commend the author for. It is so adequately titled. It is a book that certainly left me feeling this way. It is called Only Mostly Devastated, and it is by Sophie Gonzalez. I don't own the book anymore. I'm just having a look at it online to see who it's by. Yeah, this book is false advertising, and if there is one thing that I cannot stand with books, it is false advertising. I feel like this book is one of the many reasons why I stopped reading Premises. The premise of this book is that it is a rewritten work, or a redone, I guess, thing, however you call that, version of Grease, the movie Grease, for the LGBTIQ plus community, where you have two male characters. And I thought, oh my goodness, this sounds so amazing, right? Doesn't that sound so awesome? Just thinking of Sandy and Danny, summer love and having a blast, but it's two guys. Oh my gosh, yes. No, it's not. I don't know where this premise came from, that this is a Grease retelling is the word I'm after. Is a Grease retelling. It's not. The only similarity this book has to Grease is that a summer fling took place before they went back to school. Aside from that, it is not Grease at all. I don't see how it's a retelling. If it was stated in the premise, this is a Grease retelling, what would happen if instead of it being a boy and a girl who had a summer fling, it was a guy, and how would that change things? Then it would be an honest premise. But no, the premise of this book is this is a Grease retelling. No, it's not. No, it's not. And it's quite a reach to say this is a Grease retelling where the only thing that is in any way similar is that there is a summer romance, a summer fling before they go back to school, and then we follow the aftermath when they're back at school. I mean, come on. Really. There are many other reasons I don't like this book, but I want to give more books the opportunity to put them out there. So if you want to know more about why I didn't like this, you can head on over to my Goodreads review, or by all means, please message me over on the Discord. I'm more than happy to go into information on it with you. But yeah, there's one thing that annoys me and why I stopped reading Premises is premises that are literally false advertising. This is not a Grease retelling, and it very much annoyed me. I'm going to give a dishonorable mention here. I don't want to officially put it out there, but it's just a dishonorable mention, and that is this book, Infinity Sun by Adam Silvera. Before we proceed any further, let me explain. Adam Silvera is a critically acclaimed author, well known for his amazing male hard-hitting contemporary books, and I agree with that. He absolutely writes amazing hard-hitting contemporary male books that delve in and dive very deeply into very hardcore issues that surround specifically the gay community. I very much appreciate him for that. But then, one day, in his infinite wisdom, Adam Silvera decided to write a fantasy and came up with this. And honestly, I was very excited to read this book because of how much I loved Adam Silvera. History Is All You Left Me is such a fantastic book, as are the others. I've read all of his hiding contemporaries. It's just History Is All You Left Me is the first one on my mind. But yeah, so I decided, of course, I'm going to read this because I love Adam Silvera and I love fantasy. The words "don't quit your day job" are thrown around a lot these days, but first of all, I didn't think it was a good fantasy. I have read amazing fantasies. This is not a good one. I really don't like the fantasy at all. It's just not well done. The magic system, I didn't appreciate at all. The character development, I didn't appreciate at all. The prose, I really didn't enjoy. It wasn't, from my end, to look at it objectively, I just didn't think it was a good book. Subjectively, it really annoyed me that it wasn't a good book because Adam Silvera is a fantastic writer. What also annoys me, and the reason why it's getting this dishonorable mention in this 2024 edition of Worst Books, is because next year, the only book Adam Silvera is releasing is book 3 in this series, and I don't understand why. He is a trailblazer for amazing, hard-hitting male contemporary works. He is its own voices. He grew up as a gay man in the Bronx. He knows about this stuff, and I don't get why he doesn't seem to be writing male hard-hitting contemporaries anymore. Granted, he's writing a series with Becky Albertalli, although I don't know if that one is done or not after the second one, but it's not good. Objectively, it's not a good book, but also Adam Silvera, go back to writing male hard-hitting contemporaries. There was a term that I once upon a time coined on this channel as being the Suzanne Collins curse. That is a curse where you capture lightning in a bottle with book 1, maybe even book 2 as well in a series, and then for book 2 or book 3 or book 4 or whatever, you take that lightning that you've caught in that bottle, you smash it on the floor, sweep up the pieces and throw it into the trash, and just write something completely different. I'm someone that if I ended up becoming someone with published works, I do write books. I haven't published any of them, but if I were to, I would want to listen to my readers, and I just don't get it. The reason that the Suzanne Collins curse term came about on this channel was because I loved Hunger Games Book 1. I liked Hunger Games Book 2. Hunger Games Book 3 was not Hunger Games, in my opinion. I really don't understand what made Hunger Games work in books 1 and 2, which I won't spoil, was just completely discarded in book 3, and I don't get why. Why would you smash that lightning that you caught in the bottle? So I am referring to the Suzanne Collins curse when I refer to this book, Legendary by Stephanie Garber. This is a YA fantasy mystery. Think of it as a fantasy version of the TV show The Amazing Race, where you're involved in a competition where you're at this circus for book 1. This is book number 2, by the way, but in book 1, you're at this circus. There are dire stakes that are placed. You are given one clue that leads you to the next one, to the next one, to the next one, to the next one, and you have a countdown timer thing going on as well. It was fantastic. What's her name? Stephanie Garber caught amazing lightning in the bottle with Caraval book number 1. Book number 2, Legendary, I ordered with express expedited delivery because I needed it and I needed it now. To say that the game is not present in book 2 would be a lie, but to say that the game covers more than 10% of the book would be an absolute lie as well. Stephanie Garber, for some particular reason, decided that she was going to turn book number 2 into a character-driven book, even though book number 1 was a plot-driven book, and instead focus on these 2 new characters that we're following and their romance, as opposed to following the purpose of why we're here, which is to play the game, which is what was set up in book number 1. Yeah, really, this has got to be one of the worst books I've ever read because of the fact that it just didn't do what it promised it would continue to do. Yeah. And then apparently in book 3, which is called Finale, I haven't read it, so correct me if the information I've received is wrong, but apparently in book 3, the game is not there at all. What the heck? Why do you do this? So yeah, if you love Caraval, think of it as a standalone in my opinion and don't buy the rest of the series. If you haven't picked up the series and this is not encouraging you to, I absolutely encourage you to pick up Caraval, however you say it, by Stephanie Garber, because it is an absolutely phenomenal book to read. As far as subjective opinion goes, oh my goodness, I was so entertained. Please do pick that one up. Do. It's amazing. But think of it as a standalone. This one, no. While we're at it, another Suzanne Collins curse book would have to be Allegiant by Veronica Roth, which is book 3 in the Divergent series, and I could very well get passionate about this one, and I'm going to try hard not to, because of how much I love Divergent, book 1 in that series. Again, book 1. These authors come up with these amazing first books, and then something happens. But anyway, the world building in book 1 in this series, Divergent by Veronica Roth, is absolutely objectively amazing. And again, that's objectively. It is amazing. If you have seen the film, I highly recommend reading the book. If you read the book, I still highly recommend seeing the film. This dystopian world that is split into, I don't remember how many, but something like 5 different factions that are all have their different cultures and different things. My goodness, the world building is fantastic. I didn't like Insurgent Book 2 as much as Book 1, but I still did like it because the world building again was so good. If you've read Book 1, in Book 2, we visit Kanda, and Kanda was my favorite faction in Book 1. So we actually visit Kanda, which I loved. And I think we also visit Erudite. I think we do. But anyway, yeah, oh my goodness, so good. And then we had this thing. And I don't know what Veronica Roth was trying to do. Maybe she was just trying to wrap everything up, I guess. But it all just could have been surmised in like an epilogue or something of book 2. But this book, there are words that I want to use, and I'm just not going to use them. But that's what I'm going to go back to what I was saying with Caraval. With the Divergent series, I highly recommend picking them up. But here's what you do, in my mind. You pick up Divergent, you read Divergent, then if you love that, you pick up Insurgent, you read Insurgent, and then you just consider it a duology and call it a day. Don't do what I did and read Allegiant and have this series feel so ruined for you. And that's part of the reason it's become one of my worst books as well, is because of books that ruin series for me. And I'm not going to let it, because Divergent and Insurgent, I still love them so much. But Allegiant, Veronica Roth, what did you do? I'm still willing to give Veronica Roth more chances, absolutely, but what did you do? Oh, here we go. So, a lot of you know I love Amanda Flower, but I had no issue putting one of her books up on the screen for my worst book categories. My favourite male author of all time. Let's put up one of his books. My favourite male author of all time is Brandon Sanderson, and I affectionately refer to him as my dear Mr. Brando Sando. I love this guy. I love his Cosmere. Oh my gosh, fantastic. I am very much liking the Skyward series as well. I'm reading Defiant in 2025. I am a massive Brando Sando fan. But there's a book that definitely deserves to go on this list, and it would have to be Alcatraz versus the Evil Librarians. Oh my goodness. It took a lot of effort to get this book for me. The edition I wanted, I could only get it from America. I jumped through many hoops. I paid a lot of money. I really don't like the H word, but I hated this book so much. I really think that Brandon Sanderson should stick to whatever. If you want to call Mistborn YA, then YA and adult, and if you're happy to continue to call Mistborn adult, as I am because it was originally released as an adult series, then Brandon Sanderson should stick to adult works, because this this just was not good at all. First of all, of course, all of my opinions are completely, my own, as I've already said. And yes, this is a subjective thing, but I don't like, unless it is for a very, very, very good reason, I don't like when authors break the fourth wall. Now, for those of you who don't know what I'm referring to here, basically when I say break the fourth wall, authors breaking the fourth wall, what I'm referring to is the author then taking, especially with a work of fiction where you're following all these characters, and then suddenly that prose turns onto you, the reader. It is not only extremely jarring, but it makes me very uncomfortable. So you can read about a girl that's running off into the forest to do some magical fantasy thing, and then all of a sudden the girl says, "I'm really scared." But reader, how would you feel in this situation? I know you reading the book must have questions right now. No, I don't like that. This book breaks the wall at the end of every single chapter. It wasn't that the fourth wall was broken once or twice. Every single chapter, the fourth wall was broken, and it really just annoyed me. Kind of like with The Night Circus, honestly, by Erin Morgenstern, but I DNF'd that book, so I can't include it in the list. I'm only including books I read all the way through, but the same thing happened there at the beginning of The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstein, however you say it. It's all about, you are standing in a line, you notice a clock, you are now moving forward in line. Like, wait, what? No, I'm not. I'm reading a book. Yeah, so it is definitely, a difference of opinion. If you're someone who doesn't mind fourth wall being broken and you love Brandon Sanderson, read the Alcatraz series. But if you don't like the fourth wall being broken, I highly recommend staying away from this one because it's at the end of every single blooming chapter. And also it reads incredibly immature. I understand that some middle grades just do because that is your target audience, but with what I'm used to with Brandon Sanderson, it just didn't line up how immature it read as well. Okay, I'm going to quickly give you two more before we run out of time. The next book... We need to have words. The next book... should be number one, but number one deserves to be number one, so let's just put it up. The next book is called The Metamorphosis, and it is by Franz Kafka. My biggest problem with this book is that I was assigned to read this book whilst doing a university course to study literature. I still don't understand to this day why I had to read this book. I have no issue with anyone seeking out books they want to read, but when anyone, at no matter what level of schooling, when anyone is forced to read a book, it always annoys me. And we can get into that another day, but it just does. Anyway, I was forced to read this book, The Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka. And literally, this book is about a bug. And nothing interesting happens. And it's a metaphor as well. And yes, if you want to get all literary about it, which I suppose was the point, it's a book about, depression and things like that. And, being alone and whatever. But if you're taking the book literally for what the words are, it is a book where the book starts where this man has already been transformed into a bug. So I'm sorry to, spoil the moment, but no, it's not that we start following a man and then we see the man turn into a bug and we find out why he has turned into a bug. No. He's already turned into a bug. And he spends the rest of the book being a bug up until the end. Nothing interesting happens. I don't get why this is critically acclaimed. And I'm now going to calm down before I tell you the next one. This final book that I'm going to talk about, I'm glad I'm running out of time because I don't want to spend a long time talking about it. I'm not even going to put it on the screen. I'm just going to tell you the title. It is the only book I have read cover to cover that I refuse to give a rating to because I feel like 0 stars is worth a whole lot more than 1 star. It is a book called We Are Totally Normal, and it is by Naomi Kanakia. This is the most offensive book I've ever read. And, they want to talk about censoring the classics and stuff like that. Seriously, they need to start with this one and just make it no longer be available. Okay, what can I say? We follow our protagonist who is a straight male by the name of Nandan. He is a high schooler. In this world of high school, being gay is in. And that's why I say this world, because I don't know any high school where being gay is the in thing and the most popular thing in the world. But anyway, I mean, acceptance is there, and I absolutely don't take that for granted. But I don't know anywhere where you are the most popular kid in school because you're gay. And that's a good thing. But anyway, in this world, that's the case. And that setup is already, setting Naomi Kanakia up for disaster, because then she has Nandan decide that he's going to lie, get into a relationship, pretend to be gay, purely for the sake of being able to lower the guard of the girls around him so that he can get into their pants. Yeah. I'm spoiling the ending for you because it pissed me off. Nandan did not learn a lesson. The truth came out. Everyone knew what was going on. He walked away with his head held high, his nose proverbially in the air, saying, oh yes, but this is what I wanted to do, the end. And then, Naomi Kanakia took to Twitter, now called X, and said something along the lines of, I hope that the people who are like Nandan out there could see themselves finally reflected in a book. No! Now, Naomi Kanakia, it is important to mention, is part of the LGBTIQ plus community. I appreciate that someone from the LGBTIQ plus community wants to write a book. I don't appreciate someone who's from the LGBTIQ plus community writing a book that is so horrible, so conniving, that you are targeting to YA readers, and then you don't have them learn a lesson or try and make a point that this is something that we are doing to teach people not to do this, and then you go to Twitter and say, I hope that everyone who is just like Nandan finally sees themselves reflected in this book and yay, and feels like it's like a nice warm hug. No! The absolute worst book I've read. I finished this book cover to cover, and the only reason I did was because I said to myself, he has to learn a lesson by the end of the book, because if he doesn't, how did this book even get published? And then he didn't even learn the lesson. What? Whoa, no. Suddenly, for me, Naomi Kanakia is an auto not by author, because I just can't. If you put a workout like that, it's one thing. If you put a workout like that and then take to social media and say, this is a commentary on things I've seen happening that I want to have no longer happen, so I'm trying to make a change by putting this out, that's another. But then if you put out on social media saying, I did this purposefully because I hope these people see themselves reflected and that they feel like they're getting a nice warm hug, no! This is a list of the worst books that I have ever read. Let me know the worst books that you've ever read in the comment section below. But in the meantime, I'm going to let you all go with peace, blessings, and so much love. Please do be kind, love one another, spread your sparkling energy all throughout the world. We'll be back with a positive video next time, I promise. And until then, happy reading. Bye, everyone!